In the spring of 1918, Paris had already endured the bombardment of German artillery and the eerie menace of Gotha bombers streaking across the sky. Though the raids had become less frequent, the memory of destruction lingered. Life went on, but the tension was palpable. The German High Command believed they had one final chance to win the war.
Wir müssen Paris einnehmen, bevor die Amerikaner ankommen.
Strike hard, strike fast, and take Paris before American reinforcements could arrive in force. They launched a massive offensive across the Marne, confident the exhausted French and British armies would collapse under the weight of their assault. But at a quiet patch of forest called Bellue Wood, the first wave of U.S. Marines had arrived, young, inexperienced, and determined, and they refused to give ground. From the moment the first American boots struck the shattered soil outside the forest of Bellue Wood, something in the air seemed to whisper of violence yet to come, a palpable tension that clung to every stalk of wheat, every ragged tree branch, and every young man's heart who marched into that hellscape in June of 1918. For this would be no ordinary battle, but a crucible that would forge legends, test limits of courage and endurance, and echo through the ages as a turning point in the First World War. The Germans, who had thrown their weight behind a massive spring offensive aimed at smashing Allied defenses and capturing Paris, believed they would overrun the weary French and British and break the spirit of the freshly arrived Americans.
Move out on the whistle!
But what met them near the Marne River was something
tight,
they had not anticipated.
Move
The
up!
raw,
Follow
resolute
me!
force of the United States Marine Corps, and soldiers who had come not just to fight, but to prove themselves in the greatest struggle the world had ever seen. And as the sun rose on June 1st, 1918, the roar of war washed over the fields stretching toward the once serene woods, whose name would soon be etched into history forever. The French army, exhausted and outnumbered, began to falter under the German advance, and when retreat was whispered as an option to the American contingent, Captain Lloyd W. Williams, eyes hardened by resolve and voice edged with fire, replied with words that would become immortal.
Hell, we just got here! Hold your positions!
A defiant stance that inspired not only his comrades, but even some of the French soldiers who heard it, convincing them to stand and fight alongside the Americans instead of yielding ground.
Hold your ground, men! We are staying right here in Bellue Wood! Do not fall back! Fight!
The cost of that resolve was immediate and terrible. June 6th marked the beginning of a ferocious assault across an open wheat field towards the dense German-held forest, a field where machine gun fire raked through ranks with deadly precision, cutting down entire lines of attackers, and where the Marines, undeterred, advanced inch by bloody inch, crawling under barbed wire, diving into shell holes, and pressing forward through a storm of bullets and shell fragments that tore at flesh and spirit alike, resulting in casualty rates so high they would remain unmatched in the Corps until battles of the next World War. The woods themselves were a labyrinth of shadow and death, ancient oaks and tangled underbrush turning into a ghastly maze where visibility was low. Attacks came from every direction, and the cries of the wounded and dying blended with the relentless bark of rifle and machine gun. Here the warriors fought not as formations on a parade ground, but as individuals locked in brutal, close-quarters combat, sometimes striking at the enemy with bayonet and club when ammunition ran low, fighting through gas attacks that stung lungs and blistered eyes, and enduring conditions that would break lesser spirits, yet seemed only to steel the will of those who knew that turning back was not an option. As days bled into weeks, the battle took on a rhythm of horror and heroism, attacks and counterattacks, gains made at the cost of grievous losses, the soil of Bellue Wood soaked with the blood of Americans and Germans alike, and yet the Marines fought on, their discipline and courage becoming a beacon in the chaos. On more than one occasion, a senior NCO's voice cut through the cacophony, urging his men forward with a cry that would be remembered long after the final shot was fired. Come on, you sons
Come
of
on, you
bitches!
sons of bitches!
Do you want to
Do
live
you wanna
forever?
live forever?
A statement both taunting and truthful, encapsulating the blend of fear, fervor, and fatalism that drove the fighters on through mud, smoke, and carnage. The German defenders, seasoned and dug into strong positions with interlocking fields of machine gun fire, artillery support, and knowledge of the terrain, expected that this fresh American force would falter under pressure, that they would be swept aside as so many before. But they had underestimated the ferocity with which the U.S. 2nd and 3rd Divisions would fight, especially the brigade composed of the 5th and 6th Marine Regiments, whose tenacity in battle drew both awe and fear from friend and foe alike. By the time the wood echoed with the fading bursts of gunfire on June 26th, the brutal fact stood clear. These Americans were not mere green recruits, but hardened warriors who had clawed control of the forest back from the Germans not once, not twice, but through repeated assaults in a grinding, unrelenting campaign that defined what it meant to fight in the Great War. The toll was staggering. Nearly 10,000 American casualties, including hundreds of brave men killed outright and thousands more wounded. The worst losses the Marine Corps had ever incurred to that point. A testament not to reckless bravado, but to unshakable determination to achieve their objective regardless of cost. While German casualties were equally severe, reflecting the fierce lethality with which the battle was fought and the importance both sides placed on controlling this strategic wood on the Western Front. In recognition of the valor displayed in that shattered forest, the French renamed Bellue Wood as Bois de la Brigade de Marine, the wood of the Marine Brigade.
Aujourd'hui, cette forêt historique est renommée Bois de la Brigade de Marine.
And awarded France's esteemed Croix de Guerre to units whose bravery had helped turn the tide against the German offensive. Commanders like General John J. Pershing, observing the indescribable courage of the Marines, would later declare that the deadliest weapon in the world is a United States Marine and his rifle. Words that captured the respect earned in that furnace of battle, and that would echo through Marine Corps lore for generations to come. Yet beyond honors and renamings, the true legacy of Bellue Wood lay in the transformation it wrought on the men who fought there, and on the perception of American forces in the crucible of global war. These young men, many barely out of boyhood, entered the fray with little more than fierce patriotism and coarse training. But they walked out bearing scars both visible and invisible, having become part of a legend forged in smoke and blood. A narrative of courage that would define the Marine Corps' identity as first to fight, and bind the memory of Bellue Wood into the very ethos of American military tradition. A memory preserved not only in monuments and cemeteries, but in the stories told by survivors and descendants who understood that what had been won in that devastated wood was more than ground. It was honor, pride, and an enduring testament to human resilience in the face of unthinkable adversity.